There are some jokes where you know the joke from the punchline, because everybody knows the joke. And the title of the talk today is one of those. And in case you don't know it, or just to make sure we're on the same page, there's a guy walking down the street in New York City with a violin case. And he stops a passerby and he says, "Excuse me, how do I get to Carnegie Hall?" And the guy looks down at the violin case and looks back up and says, "Practice, practice, practice." And we're going to talk about spiritual practice today, because the idea is practice, practice, practice. Spiritual practice is something that's not done. It's not like you do spiritual practice once or for a little while and then you're finished with it. Spiritual practice is the sort of thing that you begin and then you continue. And in doing so, you become more adept at it. Or as I like to say, practice makes practiced. And we get to keep on doing that. Now, in New Thought, the primary spiritual practice is practical prayer. And we've talked about practical prayer a lot. It's in all of the classes. I'm going to be talking about some of the details and techniques that we can use in doing practical prayer. But the idea behind practical prayer is to look a fact in the face and know something better. It is the ability to see something that's going on in an experience and know something better is possible. And in some cases, we don't even need to see that something in front of us to know something better. We can choose that good, better, best for ourselves in a way that's going to bring that about for us. The steps in a practical prayer are pretty simple. RUR2GR is the abbreviation that we use for that. It's easy enough as a reminder of the steps that are in the practical prayer that it fits onto a license plate. And I know that because I got one of them. And the steps are recognition, unification, realization, gratitude, and release. And the part where we're actually able to turn from what's been happening into what we want to have happen instead is that realization step, the one that's right in the middle there. And what we want to do when we do that realization, it's the same as an affirmation that all of the self-help techniques say, to choose something that you wish to experience and say that as an affirmation over and over and over again, and it will come into your experience. And it's true, and it works. And it doesn't work because we say that's what we want to have happen. It happens because we believe that's what's going to happen. So we can do an affirmation. We can say, "I am prosperous," or "I have a perfect loving relationship," or "I am comfortable and healthy." And we get to claim that, and that comes into our experience, and we get to embody that even more richly and fully. The reason that we don't just do affirmations is because, also as I pointed out, they work perfectly right up until they stop working. And the reason that they stop working isn't because there's something wrong with the affirmations, it isn't because the technique stops working. It's because it's not the words that we're saying, it's not the things that we're repeating over and over again that have the power and the impact. The power and the impact comes from our belief. If we believe it's possible, then it becomes possible. So the first two steps of the practical prayer are putting ourselves in the mindset where we're realizing that it's not just us doing this. It's not me sitting here doing an affirmation saying, "I am healthy and comfortable, even though my leg hurts and my side is bad and I've got to go to the doctor next week." The power comes from believing that it's possible. And the first step is in identifying that there is an infinite creative power, one infinite creative power that creates everything. That divine power and presence that shares itself as all of its creation. Everything is that divine presence expressed in its own individual way. And the story is the one that's told in Scripture about, in the beginning there was darkness and void. And God, which by the way was the only thing there was, because everything else was darkness and void, God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. And "Let there be the firmament," and "Let there be this and this and this," and it all came into being. And that's the creative process. That is that infinite intelligence setting an intention for something new to come into experience. And the creative law that says yes to every conscious intention says yes to that. And by the way, our conscious intention doesn't have to be conscious. It can happen in an area below what we are aware of. That infinite creative law is always responding, and it's responding to what we believe, which may or may not be the same thing that we're saying. what we want and what we believe could be the same thing, and that's when an affirmation works just perfectly. And when our when they're not the same, when we believe one thing and want something else, that gap is where we get into suffering, because we are not having the experience that we want to have. We're having the ones that we believe we have. And the practice is to open up to what is the best version of your life that you can imagine. What's the best version of your life that you can imagine? And do you believe it's possible to have that? I had an experience, it was yesterday, about the way that this unfolds. And it was somebody who was telling me a story and said, I had to get car insurance. And this always happens to me, is what the line was. This always happens to me. Contacted the insurance agent, and it's way too expensive. And listen to that, no, that's no good. And then called another insurance agent, and that was way too expensive. And another one, it's like this was preposterous about how expensive these insurance policies are going to be. Finally called another one and it's almost half the price. And said, that's what I was looking for. And my observation was, this all happened based on the notion of, this always happens to me. And what happens is, if you believe that this always happens to you, then you're right. And it does. And it always happens to you. So we got a chance to dive into that. And I said, are you happy with the insurance policy that you were able to get? And the answer is, yeah, I'm very happy with the one that I was able to get. And I said, and you were willing to go through the process of researching and investigating and making sure that this was the right one for you? And the answer was yes. And I said, all right, just out of curiosity, if the first call that you'd made was to the inexpensive one, would you have stopped, or would you have called the other people anyway to make sure that you were getting the best deal? And the answer was, I would have made those calls anyway. And I said, then the fact that you believe that this always happens to you is what's setting you up for this. And you can let go of your energy and attachment to it, because that's the process that you're going by. If you want to change it, then you got to change the belief, and then the experience will happen differently. And maybe you don't need to make 5 phone calls. Maybe you wind up making 1 phone call. The idea is to remember what is possible, to have an optimistic outlook and say, this is the good that I am seeking, that I'm inviting into my life, and then know that it's showing up. And regardless of how it shows up immediately or in the first instance, there might be something different, something better, something even more delightful coming. And one of those jokes that you can tell just by the punchline. Got to be a pony in here somewhere. And I see some of the folks here are recognizing that joke. I'll tell it very briefly. It's a kid goes downstairs on Christmas morning, and there's a big pile of horse manure there, and he's delighted, and his parents are aghast. Why are you so excited? He says, there's got to be a pony in here somewhere. What's the good that you're looking for? And when something happens, are you looking for evidence of the good showing up in your life, or are you looking at it as though it's just one more confirmation that you're not getting what you want? We get to look a fact in the face and know something better. And that's where the affirmations come in. But the starting point for all of that is the recognition that we are part of that infinite creative power. We are expressions of the infinite. We are individualizations of that one divine power. And we are using that same creative power to create our lives according to our beliefs. So there's some techniques to remind yourself of what it is that you're choosing. One of them, and if you've been in the Beyond Limits class, you might remember the ribbons, that you can come up with an affirmation, something that you want to have in your experience of life. And I'm going to, just for the example here, I'm going to say, I am healthy and comfortable. And what you do is you tell yourself, I am healthy and comfortable, and you tie a knot in your ribbon or your string or your cord. And then you do it again. I am healthy and comfortable. I should do an affirmation that my knot tying skills are better than they have been. I am healthy and comfortable. And you keep on doing that until you have filled your ribbon up, or your cord up, or your string up with knots. I am healthy and comfortable. And the next time you get to it, you take the same one and you say, I am healthy and comfortable. I am healthy and comfortable. I am healthy and comfortable. And you go through those again. There are ways that we can magnify the focus that we have on that affirmation or realization step that we're going to be doing. Another one that's really powerful, and if you've never done it, it seems silly, but if you have done it, you know how powerful it is. And that's what we call mirror work. Put a mirror and look at yourself. And tell yourself the truth about you while you're looking at yourself in the mirror. You are beautiful. You are capable. You are wonderful. You are prosperous. You are lovable. You are healthy and strong. And say that while you're looking into your own eyes, and it changes the experience that you have. If you've never done it, go ahead and try it. And if it's been a while, go ahead and try it again. There are a lot of different ways that we can amplify and focus and bring up the awareness of whatever it is that we're setting an intention for. And that realization, that affirmation, should be powerful, positive, personal, and in the present tense. Not I'm going to be prosperous, not someday if everything else works out, I might have something good in my life. We want it to be powerful, positive, personal, and present tense. This is the good I am claiming now. And even if it hasn't shown up now, I want to have a wonderful relationship. My perfect relationship is on its way now. We want it to be active and present and now. So we know how to do the affirmation piece of this. And then the other really, really important piece of this is the handoff, where we're going to take it out of our own consciousness and invite the infinite to work with us. Because there's a big difference between sitting here saying, I am prosperous, I have plenty of money to pay all of my bills, and be thinking, the first of the month is coming up and I don't know how I'm going to cover the mortgage or the rent or the car payment or fill in the blank. So what we're going to do is, instead of just claiming that there's this magical good that's going to happen for us, we're going to make it part of a spiritual practice. We're going to make it part of a prayer. And we're going to start with the awareness that there is one divine power and presence that shares itself as everything. If we're talking about prosperity, I like to remind myself that this is a universe with billions of galaxies, and each of those galaxies has billions of stars. And the power that created that is the same power that created me, and it's the same power that I'm using to create my life. And the thought that there's not enough good to create my mortgage payment on the first of the month, yet there's enough to create more stars and galaxies, is preposterous. There is plenty. It's not a supply issue, it's a distribution issue, and it is completely possible for those pieces to fit together. And the big piece in being able to do those first two steps is to have an awareness of the infinite and a feeling of connection with the infinite. The best way to do that first step is through meditation. To give ourselves some time and some space to connect with the infinite. Meditation can take a lot of different forms. Meditation can be sitting on the purple pillow, just being quiet. If you want, you can sit cross-legged with your hands in a mudra position and breathe quietly and just let yourself not think. Some people find that difficult. Some people tell me that when they sit down and they try to not think, all they do is think. The sounds keep on coming up. A wonderful technique that I have learned to use in that case is to count my breaths. And you breathe slowly and deeply. It's not like you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That, you wind up hyperventilating, and it's not going to be helpful. Take a deep breath in and a deep breath out. And that's 1. Another deep breath in and a deep breath out. And that's 2. And all you do is breathe, pay attention to your breathing, and count. And when you get to 25, start over again at 1. And it's interesting to watch your mind as you do this, because sometimes you'll notice that you've lost count because you've been off thinking about something. In which case, you start over at 1 again, and you continue breathing. And you get to 25, and you start over. And sometimes you'll be counting just fine, and you realize that you're at 37, that you forgot to start over again at 25 because you were thinking about stuff. Don't judge yourself. Don't criticize yourself. Just notice. Return your awareness to your breath and start counting over again at 1. So this is a meditation that I do because I just do a quiet sitting meditation first thing in the morning. It's the RPM meditation for me. Rise, P, meditate. It's just you can get it done and start my day off that way. If you like having sound, then There are countless ways. On YouTube, there are tons and tons of examples of meditations that you can do. I love using Insight Timer. I think there are 10,000 meditation tracks, maybe, and got to be more than that at this point, probably 10,000 meditation teachers on Insight Timer. I'm one of them. And I use that either for chimes to time my 15-minute silent meditation, or sometimes there's something else in there. A couple of days ago, because I got these new AirPods that are noise canceling, I put my AirPods in and I turned on the Sonic Yogi chakra meditation track. And it was interesting because I love listening to Sonic Yogi, and I was listening to the track, and the sound is only in my ears. And the other times I've done this with a singing bowl meditation, I've had the bowls in the room, and I'm feeling the sound in my various chakras. And I noticed that even though these are just headphones that are plugged into my ears, when he was going through each of the chakras, that's where I was feeling the music. That's where I was feeling the vibration. And he didn't announce them, he didn't say when he was doing them, he just went through them. And I did it again this morning, and yep, that's an interesting experience as I got to focus on that. It's something in addition that allows me that space where I can just focus on my breathing and let go of the thoughts. Some people do that with yoga. Some people do yoga because it's a workout. That's not a spiritual practice. Yoga is about maintaining your awareness in your breathing, regardless of doing the postures and the poses. Some people do that with chanting. There are lots of different spiritual practices. There are lots of different meditations that you can do to get yourself into the awareness of your oneness with that infinite creative power. And that's the thing that we want to do, is we want to elevate and maintain and celebrate our awareness of our connection with the infinite, knowing that that divine love is unfolding as us in every moment. We want to be able to breathe that. We want to be able to pray without ceasing. Is the idea, to be always aware of our oneness with that infinite creative power, to have a technique that we can go to. So the reason that we practice is because when the time comes to do the prayer, we have a technique, we have a practice, we have something we can go back to rather than trying to make it up for the first time, to bring some good into our lives. A lot of times people say, "Oh, I can't meditate. I sit down and I try and just be silent, and these voices in my head start going crazy. My to-do list shows up, and judgments about things that happened 15 years ago, and it's this calamity, and then all of my failures come to mind, and my fears about things that are going to happen in the future. I can't do that. I can't meditate." It's like, A, I hear you. B, meditate. Practice, practice, practice. The best thing that I've found to do, because I too have those voices in my head, I call it my committee. And they all they're gathered around in this meeting, and they start talking amongst themselves, and they get louder and louder and louder. And I've sometimes noticed that they have nothing to do with me. In fact, if somebody else were saying those things about me out loud, I'd get really annoyed. I'd get very angry. I'd be fighting back against them, and I'm just sitting there being victimized by the voices in my own head. So I have learned over the years that I can dismiss the committee. I can say, "Thank you, meeting's adjourned, you guys can go have your conversation outside. It doesn't involve me, so don't do it in front of me. It doesn't need to be inside of my head. Do it someplace else." The other thing that's really fun is to give them something else to say. So if there's going to be a bunch of voices in my head saying stuff, how about if we have them say something nice? We can do that too. That's part of a spiritual practice. And this is something else that you'll remember if you took the Beyond Limits class. It's called Rapid Pace Affirmations, RPAs. And usually when we do these, we have a card that we hand out to the folks who are in person. Don't have the cards today, but these are the Rapid Pace Affirmations. And you can make up your own if you want to. So there they are. I am worthy. I am prosperous. I am enough. I am beautiful. I am powerful. I am gifted. I am loved. I am worthy, I am prosperous, I am enough, I am beautiful, I am powerful, I am gifted, I am loved. So you're all muted, so you can go ahead and say this in the privacy of your own house. Let's say them all together. I am worthy, I am prosperous, I am enough, I am beautiful, I am powerful, I am gifted, I am loved. Go ahead and unmute. We'll all say them together. Nice cacophony. I am worthy. I am prosperous. I am enough. I am beautiful. I am powerful. I am gifted. I am loved.
I am loved.
Yeah.
I am loved.
And we can keep repeating those over and over and over again. I am worthy, I am prosperous, I am enough, I am beautiful, I am powerful, I am gifted, I am loved. And you know what? It's as likely for that to be true as anything else to be true. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's go ahead and invite that sort of goodness in. Practice, practice, practice. If it's working for you, then work it. If for some reason it's not working the way that you want it to, then try something different and continue working it. The thing to avoid doing is to say, oh, this doesn't work for me, so forget it. I'm not going to do this anymore. You are a gift. You are a divine light. You are shining God's love in a way that is unique and specific and particular for you. And it is your opportunity, and I'm going to say it is your obligation to let that light shine. And I say it's your obligation because that light is shining anyway. And you're actively choosing how it's going to shine. So when you know exactly how you want your light to shine, you can be very intentional about it. And if you're abdicating and thinking, well, my light's going to just shine the way that it's been shining, then you're giving up on yourself and you're letting your power go. And there's no need to do that because you are a bright light of divine love. You are a gift unfolding in a way that is specifically and joyously and miraculously you. So be that bright light of divine love. Let your light shine because the world deserves it and you deserve it. And so it is.